Hey guys, happy Friday from Brisbane. This is for the travel people in the house, people who work in travel at the moment, whether you're on break or not on break, or if you're actually still traveling, lucky you. All right, we're going to dive straight into it. The reason why I say you have an advantage is because I just wanted to remind you of the advantage that you have that goes beyond travel. One of the biggest perks of working in travel, whether you're actually traveling or not right now, is that you have something that a lot of people with normal jobs don't have. When you work in travel, especially at the moment, you're going to find yourself in places where you're either solo. Let's say I'm just going to talk from my place of having been a flight attendant in the past. When you're a flight attendant, one of the things that you can feel is like you're always alone, right? And I think I don't know whether I took this for granted, but it's definitely one of the most powerful things that when you can start to see that it's not about I'm so alone, I'm being alone all the time, and turn it into these pockets of time where you can learn and upskill so that when you finish flying or leave your travel job, that you're like fully set up. You can actually set yourself up in the midst of you being a flight attendant. So you have the advantage of time. So having been in the normal, when we were a flight attendant, when I was a flight attendant, we used to call the non-flying world the real world. And now that I've been in the real world for about 6 years, one of the biggest struggles that people have who have like normal jobs or have their own businesses is lack of time. And not just lack of time, but lack of focused solo time, because there's so many different responsibilities in this life. You have like a lot of people have their routines from the moment they get up to when they run their day to the end of the day, like that meal prep, that gym, all that stuff. And then they go to bed and it's the same thing. So when they're wanting to start something new, like a new business, or want to upskill, want to learn something, they're always coming up against this challenge of time. And then some people will also have the challenge of money. So it's like these two challenges happening at any one time. But flight attendants, people in the travel industry, I feel like one of those challenges is easily stripped away, which is the opportunity of time. And because you're employed, then you have the money. Now, if I were in your shoes, I've been in your shoes, I would have used my time not just I traveled. I really enjoyed being in the moment. Like the whole purpose of being in a travel job is to love your life and enjoy the travel, enjoy the flexibility. But I also did dream a lot. When I was traveling and I used to see these fantastic Airbnbs, or I used to see these awesome resorts by the beach, I would always think to myself, oh, I'd love to have a business like this. And that's how I used to think. When I leave my flying job, then I will set something up. And had I known what I'm saying now, and had I been able to be told this when I was still in that job, I would have done things a little bit differently. Because like I said, when you have time and money, you just have to take advantage of it. And given that you have this advantage of time and money, I just assume that, but having been in that position, I would say I'm going to piggyback off the topic that we talked about last week, which was learning how to make content. And what we mentioned last week was that it is available to most. As long as you've got a mobile phone with like a camera, you're already in the position to start understanding how to make content, whether that's Instagram stories, Instagram. You can even build your portfolio. You can even build you can literally build a business from this mobile phone. And because you don't have those distractions, you are fully able to do that starting today, starting like right now after this live, or you can even leave this live and start trying to find out what it is that you want to do. Now, I guess your question would be to ask yourself is like, what do you want? What do you want after you fly? Maybe, a lot of us, I remember when I used to be in the travel industry, I used to look at this one day that I would leave. And once I leave, everything's going to be fine. Everything will fall into place. And I think naturally things do. But if you kind of want to speed up the process and you want to proactively be taking action to make those things that transition a lot smoother, this is the time that you would be upskilling. Now, I'm not able to see any questions or comments. So if you do, maybe I don't know, I might be able to answer them. Last week we had a bit of a lag, but anyway, so let's get to the practical application of this. If I had my time again in travel and I was traveling as a flight attendant, I know the challenges are like jet lag. and not really knowing where to turn for specific information and how to build. So your first thing is identify what you want. If you find yourself that you're a creative person, then you will likely you're a creative person who enjoys flexibility, who enjoys the potential of still being able to travel, getting paid to travel after your flight attending or travel career, then you might like to look into things like content creation for travel companies, which means that if you're going to create content for travel companies, you would look into learning photography techniques, video techniques, Instagram stories. That's a huge, like, I do that at the moment. Like, I teach companies how to make Instagram stories to increase their visibility in the online world. So that's an actual job. That's an actual real job. And if you find that you're doing this like just for fun, the real difference is you like sort of flipping the switch and saying, no, I'm going to take this seriously. There is potential for this for me, for my future. Now that's for like creatives, right? Creatives may look into things like photography, videography, and the realm of content creation. The other thing is, if you don't really consider yourself to be a creative, but you do want to make a career, or you want to create a career that still allows you to travel and be free, there's this whole thing, you might have heard of it already. It's called being a digital nomad. Digital nomads specifically go out of their way to create a business where you can make money from anywhere. So whether that's in coaching, consulting, or whether you sell a product online, that's called like drop shipping. There's a lot of different options wherein you can be a digital nomad and basically set up a business where you can make money online, and therefore you don't have that 9 to 5 routine. So that, you would say, that's like e-commerce. E-commerce is like when you have a product that you sell, or you would say like coaching, consulting. Now, I know that this is all just like information, and it may just be going over your head, and you're like, well, how am I supposed to know what is for me? This is where you would spend your time, sort of when you're traveling and you have that downtime, you'd start looking into those things and looking into the lifestyle of those things. Where is your attention and energy going to go to at the beginning? If you're going to start e-commerce, you'll probably start learning things about drop shipping, but please note this. If I were in your shoes, this is what I would do. Don't just look at the sales things, because everyone's going to try to sell you something, especially successful e-commerce businesses, because they've been successful. They're likely going to sell you the opportunity for you to be successful too. That's the fact. Also look into, I'm not saying be negative about it, but I'm just saying be skeptical about it. Look into the lifestyle, not just the lifestyle, look into the challenges that people run into when they open these businesses. I've been online learning like my way through this world as well. And P.S. I love to be sold to. I love a great sales process, but I also am a very optimistic person. And when you're naturally an optimistic person, anytime there's a sales process and it's really well done, you're going to see the possibility for yourself. So one thing that I found really handy in helping me identify which was my path, and something that wasn't completely, not something that I could see in the past, was instead of looking at the amount of money that you want to make after you travel from the business or brand that you set up, just remember that the money is going to be a natural byproduct of you doing what you do well, right? But look at the challenges that you may face, not to be afraid of it, but just to sort of anticipate, like, what's my lifestyle going to be? Because probably the first year or two you spend like really learning. If you're going to invest in anything, you're going to get your elbows, it's going to get a bit dirty. So what I can tell you is from my perspective. Okay, so I started off with a social media marketing agency. It took me about a year to discover that was not the business model that I wanted. I knew that I could make money. I saw myself making money, but I started to see, okay, a social media marketing agency, it's not just, turns out this is when I discovered, I'm building my life. So even though I have a skill in social media, doesn't necessarily mean that I wanted to spend my time in boardrooms all the time. And I had to spend like a year in order to discover that, because I was like, right, I could build something, but this isn't how I want to spend my time. And I don't think this is how I would love to make money. And then the other thing was, so I went into that and I started missing being creative. I started missing, creating things, being behind the camera. And so I was like, okay, how can I stack what I know now about social media to what I love most, which is being able to create? And I was like, content creating. So back in the day when I used to do this social media thing, I would teach people how to create content. And then when I found that I was missing making content, then I stepped into that. So that's what I did for about a year. And then after that time, things started to click in. I was like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It could actually be both. The best thing I will tell you though, during this whole time that I was proactively like building my brand and my business, was that I was doing everything online. Like I never stopped being on Instagram. I never stopped being on YouTube. And so no matter what happened, no matter where I built, no matter what I built, that was growing like in the background. And of course, naturally things will drop off and things will add back on. And it really is a reflection of the direction that you're going, you know? So where was I? So in terms of like looking at what you might most be interested in, just always remember this, like money is going to be one driver, but your activity in making that money is going to be the other driver. I mean, you're already in the travel industry and you would already know that there are perks to being in travel, but there's also some things that you're probably doing that you're not like, oh, I'm so excited about it every single day. You know, there are some things that's just like with everything in life, right? Now, the other option that I know about in terms of like building a business, if you're still interested in working remotely, moving forward, is somewhere in the coaching and consulting space. And that's awesome. Especially 2020 really taught us that we can work quite all right via Zoom, you know? And so this has the option to thrive as well. I guess what I'm really saying is that your goals are going to be dependent on how well you know yourself. You know, like when you set aside money and start to understand that that's going to happen anyway, you're going to be like, okay, what kind of person am I? What are the things that I value? Like, what are the activities that I'm willing to push through, like through the day to get my goal? And what are the things that pull me? Now, if you're in travel and you have a little bit of downtime to reflect, this is an epic time for it. Sam, do I like dog? I have a dog. I like my dog. If you're implying dog in any other way, I don't know what you mean. Now the next question is, if you're creatively inclined, and you haven't necessarily embraced, and you haven't gone, oh, I'm going to be a photographer, or oh, I'm going to be a videographer, or oh, I'm gonna, you haven't necessarily stepped into that role, the best thing for you in this case is to start building your portfolio. Now, one of the best things that you have in your current state as like working in travel is that you have access to destinations. And this is something that's very easy to forget. When you work in travel, it's very easy to forget that you're able to see a lot of things that other people don't get to see. You're able to be in different places that other people aren't able to be. So your best thing to do is to start building a portfolio, because it's that portfolio that may lead you into the next step. The reality is, once you step into who you want to be, right, after you've done that sort of legwork, you're going, it's a lot easier to be able to do that once you've already sort of established a little bit of experience in that way. So that's what I would do if I was, and that's actually now that I look at it, that's exactly what I did. I actually was using a lot of my downtime when I was a flight attendant, experimenting with different hobbies. So I went into photography and then DJing. And photography was, at the time, I didn't really want, I did it, I loved it. And then I thought to myself, I don't really want to be a photographer for my life. And so I just stopped. So I stopped doing that, not knowing that it was then going to come back in the future, not knowing that it was going to come back in the future as an option, not just an option, but as a way of like living the life that I wanted to live. So if you ever have any inkling to be able to start something, this is the post to say it's a good time to start doing it now. So that's it. I think my summary is this: like, if you're working in travel, you likely have a couple of other advantages that people who don't have a travel job have, which is time and money. And the best way that I would use that if I were in your shoes is to segment, like, even if it's not, you don't have to spend your full layover doing all of this. you can choose and say, okay, 2 hours in this day and my day off, or 3 hours in this day off, I'm just going to dedicate this to learning. But then your next step after that is really going to be about application. It's very tricky to calculate and pre-calculate all of your wins and fails. We can set goals so that we can head in that direction, but we also don't always be like, okay, let me just pre-plan all of my fails as well. Fails are a very natural they're a very natural part of success. Every time you're going to build something in the right direction, there are going to be some mistakes, and that's very, very natural. It's part of getting to your next step. So anyway, I hope missed the first 14 minutes, but seems interesting so far. Oh, Diana, I'm glad that you find it interesting so far. Let me know if you've got any questions. Are you in the travel industry? Just a quick question. Is that something that is this something that connected with you because you're in travel and you want to make use of your time? So what I was saying at the beginning was you have time, which is something that a lot of people don't have in a non-travel job. And if you can first choose to invest some of that time in learning what your values are as a person and where you want to go in life, this is a really great time to say, okay, for the first, I'll spend 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in my days that I have time off in order to understand what those values are and what I can do and what are my preferences in terms of activities. Okay. Yeah. Thank you thanks for being honest with that, Koi, because I started this live and I was like, where do I begin? And I'm trying to understand, like, what of my knowledge can I give you the most so that you can do something starting today? I think if we were to strip everything back, I would say, let's say if I put myself in your shoes, and Koi, last week we were talking about spending some time learning how to make content. And you said to me, what does that look like? Like, if I could understand what that looks like, then I can be able to see how that applies to me. And then I gave you some examples. So as a content creator, what does that look like? And just to recap for anyone who's just joined, like last week, I explained, for me as a content creator, I'll work with brands. Brand will send me a brief of stuff that they want. They say, we want 10 photos. If 2 of the photos, you can be in the photo. And then the other photos, they're just product photos. And then I create those photos. And sometimes I might source a location. Sometimes I might do it from home. Last year I did a lot of work from home. But it's this kind of job that's really allowed me to keep seeing beautiful places. I work when I want to work and that sort of scenario. And it all really stemmed from knowing how to make photo and video content. Koi, so I'm going to strip it back a little bit more from that. What made me want to do that? What made me want to do that was I guess what I valued in life. I knew that, okay, in life we really have the options to either get a job, build a business, or do a bit of both. And I really didn't find a place where I fit in, because I always felt like, if I got a job, I had this real thing about time. I wanted to be able to choose how to spend my time. And I started to question things like, is 9 to 5 really the way that I want to live? Like, I know that's the standard of the world, but is that something that is applicable to me? And so I really started opening my eyes and tried to see what options there were for me. And when I stopped listening and looking at what the standard is outside, I started to see that I can create my own standards. And when I stopped looking at what available jobs were out there, I was able to start creating something for myself. And really, like, you'll attract what you believe you deserve, and you'll attract what you believe is valuable to you. So, I talk about content creation a lot because that was my gateway to living something more, like having more free time, being able to make money out of something that I really, really love. But it all really strips back to getting to know what I care about. And so, even if I talk to you about content creation and that kind of thing, it's really kind of about knowing yourself, like knowing what's valuable to you outside of the things that we need. Like, we need things like money. We need things like, we need the basics, right? But beyond that, like, what else is important to you? Tell me if I'm speaking in code here, and like point me in the right direction, because there's a world of stuff that I can tell you about. Oh, I can tell you something. So YouTube's a crazy place. Did you guys know that it's owned by Google, and it is the place of social media where most people have an equal opportunity to thrive? And I was going to tell you this last week, but I didn't. I don't know why. But one of the videos that I made the least effort, I used my simple basic knowledge about how YouTube works. And I was actually out there helping a client. And I made the same video as this client, because this client was like a nutritionist, and I tried to research some topics that she could make so that she can not just grow an audience, but it was actually to serve her existing clients. Dude, I made the same video, and I think it made like $15,000. Like, what the hell? I'm not even joking here. And you think like, how, like, what was that? Okay, so first I'll tell you which video it was. It was the celery juice video. I was actually genuinely interested in trying the celery juice trend. And when it comes to YouTube, there's actually there's a research process that you can do to create videos that get more views. And the power in this is, like, I know why I have, like, some of my videos have low views, but I also know why some videos make lots of money. And that's kind of nice. But the thing is, as well, knowing that YouTube is reliant on something like Google Ads and ad revenue, I decided that I wanted to also be in control of my own income. And so that's why I do more than just YouTube. That was when I realized, like, I wanted to take control over, like, this was great. This was like a nice bonus way to monetize. And it was really like I was just drinking celery juice every day for 10 days. And the funny thing was, when I first posted it, and this is with a lot of my videos, when I first post videos, Diane, I'm just reading your comment. Correct. And I've actually been watching your videos since you were still with Emirates. Your concept applies to everyone, but it's more relatable for those in specific industries that have time. Yeah, well, that's very true. Like, the funny thing is, I make point of a time because I've made time now, and that's in a busy life. And I used to have, oh my God, it was such a big struggle for myself and my partner, because he was establishing his own business as well. So the reason why I can't stress this enough, that if you're in travel and you have the time, do yourself a favor and do the work now. Don't wait till you finish. Don't wait till you finish and fantasize about the life that you want. Like, do it now. If you've ever thought about starting a YouTube channel, even if you don't know what direction it's going to go in, like, start now. If you want to build a portfolio, start now. Plus, your background expertise don't really align. Yes, I do have some questions about you. I remember when you first started your own social media. How did you make the first sale? Man, straight up pitching. This is with any job, like even with my photography work, because I didn't know anyone here. Yeah, man, $15,000 from that freaking, have you seen that freaking video? Of all the videos that I ever make, and some of them I've even hired an editor for, this one, 50% of it was made with my mobile phone. And the thumbnail is the shittiest thumbnail ever, but it worked. And what happened with that celery juice video, the first couple months, it was just average. It was like 200 views, 300 views, and it started getting picked up. This is the thing about YouTube. You can calculate things because it operates by algorithm. It started picking up. Then I was like, oh, where's $1,000? Where's that from? And then like another $1,000. Oh, that's another. And I was like, oh. And it just kept on going up. But here's the thing about YouTube, right? So I used to think that it was all about views as well. I thought that's all it was about. But I have another video that's about 800,000 views, but that didn't make $15,000, you know? And I started trying to understand, like, why is it so inconsistent? Some make a lot, even though there's less views. Some make more. It was just weird. And so I'll tell you the combination now. You're like, from what I see and from what I know. So first of all, the video was over 10 minutes long. Turns out that's one of the important things. It needs to be over 10 minutes long. But here's the catch. People need to have watched most of that 10 minutes to make a difference, because it needs to, like, that will tell YouTube to keep showing it to other people. And so it's real, this combination of, like, if people watch more of your videos, and then YouTube YouTube will then show it to more people. So the more people it shows in that particular region, then the more revenue it makes. Does region of audience matter? I think it does, given the type of sponsorship. Exactly. And that's the other thing. So Diana, you're right on the money. It's it's views and watch time. Views and watch time are pretty much the two things that tell YouTube to keep pushing the video. And then, of course, the more people that it's pushing it to, the more people are seeing the ads in the video. And then, of course, if those ads are targeted to specific regions where the dollar value or the ad cost is higher, then the revenue is also higher. So that's that. And then in terms of starting my social media agency, the reality is and this is something that I've learned over the last few years, is that no matter what it is that you start and you create, you will have to pitch. You have to pitch. And this is where a lot of people will stop. So because the pitching is a numbers game, really. You are talking to different people. Some people will say yes, some people will say no. And if you don't do it often enough to get a yes enough, it becomes unsustainable. So I remember setting up appointments. Oh my God, I think about it, and I used to make cold calls, and I was so nervous about them. Even though these people didn't know me, I was so nervous to talk to anyone on the phone to see who I could talk to about their social media. And then what happened after that, calling people one by one was one thing, but I also thought there's got to be a more powerful way to this. The reason why it was such a challenge for me at the beginning is because, first of all, I'm not originally from Brisbane. I'm from Adelaide, and all of the contacts that I had at the time were from Adelaide. Now, if you have a small network, you can easily tell your friends and family, this is what I'm doing now. If you know anyone who needs it, put me in touch with them, and then you have a meeting with that person, you just talk to them on the phone. But I didn't have that. And so when I realized I was writing down all these telephone numbers, whatever, I was like, there's got to be a better way to this. So I joined a networking group. I was networking a lot, actually. First of all, I signed up to a business coach, because I knew that something was missing, and it was either structure or something was missing. I just couldn't tell what it was. So I signed up to a business coach. The business coach, her program was all about running your own events. And that was so much better, because obviously I'd run my own events. So instead of me calling one person at a time, it was people coming to me, people coming to my event, and I do a presentation from there. And then as things went on, I was like, okay, online from what? One of those LinkedIn ads. How do you mean this one from one of which question is this one referring to? You mean running running events or networking? So with networking, so first I started running my own events, and then what happened was, so this is pre-COVID, years before COVID, I would post my stuff on Meetup, and because I already had a YouTube channel at the time, so what was going on over here was pretty much supporting my cause. There was a lot of people selling social media marketing back then, but not many of them had an online. Oh, the coach. No, the coach was actually a referral. So I'll tell you how it all went down. So here's me. I started the social media marketing agency. Then I started I used to research companies that I could pitch to. Literally, if I would see a company advertising in a magazine that told me that they have marketing budget and they're spending it in the wrong place, because that was my belief. I'm like, right, this magazine's not being seen by anyone, but I know that if they transferred that budget to me, I can help them get more visibility, things like that. And so I'd make my database and I'd ring them up. And then I was like, okay, I think there's a better way to do this. Let me run some events, because that's what my coach said to do. Started doing that. But the thing was, I already had my YouTube channel. And so at the time I realized, okay, people want to learn about social media, and I had leverage because people trust the people who are doing it. So other people were selling social media, but they hadn't really established anything. So, but that was all in my mind. I used that as my own mental leverage to give me confidence for all those events that I was running. And then I realized creating these events was nice, and it was nice, but it was still time consuming. And not to push away work, I'm never averse to work, but I was just thinking there's still a better way. And funnily enough, that led me back to the internet. So I was like, started my business because of the internet, went over here, and I was like, there's still a better way. And I was like, oh, let me go back to the internet. And so I went back to the internet and started networking through there. I'd post content, I'd use my content as samples, networked on Instagram, networked on Facebook. And then I backed it up with one more thing. I backed it up by joining a networking group that I paid a monthly fee for. And this specific group was a network of professionals. There was like 30 people. You go there every week. You introduce yourself every week. So there's truly like a little bit of hard yards in terms of building that kind of business. And when I say like I really did a lot, my most, to really build that, and then to discover that I didn't want that was like, I found myself very disappointed. Not in anything that happened. I was really disappointed in myself because I overvalued failure. Like I looked at failure like it was like this big thing that would like eat me up. And like, if you choose to change directions, then you're shit. You know, it was just rough. I was just like really rough on myself. But actually, that's when I started to get to know my values. And so at the beginning of this video, I talked about like understanding your values, understanding where you want to spend your time, because whatever it is that you build, no matter what it is, whether it's an e-commerce store, you know, a portfolio for photography, you do start at this point where you're like changing your career. You're actually not just changing. I feel like changing is like you're leaving something goodbye, see you later. You're actually building. When you're building something that matters to you, it's like it's gonna be yeses and nos. So I must have missed this part. So you change your part. Yeah. So agency really means that I work with businesses, and then I hire other people. Like I work with them, we build their social media strategy, we hire other creatives, and then we train them how to implement that sort of stuff. And what that really meant was like I was always on the computer. I was on the computer quite a lot, all day, every day, building strategies, sending it off, finding creatives. And as a creative person, I started to tap into my own self and going, like, I like being creative. Why am I hiring other creatives to do this job so that I can sit here on a laptop and, you know, like do the strategy? But I don't regret any of that part, because what that part, even though I changed that path, became so detrimental to what I know now about social media agencies. It taught me like the part that it's very systematic. Like the system side of things is kind of what a lot of, systems. I'll give you an example. McDonald's, you know, McDonald's, this might sound really off, but you know, McDonald's, right? They're not necessarily the burger brand that makes the best burgers in the world. Not at all, right? But what they do have is an epic system. It's a system that can be replicated anywhere, almost like anywhere in the world. And that's why they've grown their business very, very well. And so going back to that social media thing, at the time, I never really understood the value of a system until I started making systems for people. And I was like, you know, when you work with companies who have teammates and they need to teach their people how to do social media, I was like, okay, if I can teach them how to teach their people how to do social media, then that means I'm doing something really good for their company, right? I'm really like empowering them to do what they need to do, save them some money as well. But at the same time, I started to understand for myself. I was like, right, okay, what if I applied this to myself? And so one night I was editing a YouTube video because I was still doing YouTube for my own pleasure. And I kind of like tapped in and I was like, why am I in this business and I'm not why do I feel like, and why do I feel like editing my own video is actually a relief? You know, like, why doesn't it feel like work? And why am I still doing it? And I was like, because it's something that you like being creative. And then that's when I was like, okay, if I need to do an exercise for myself to understand like my values and things I enjoy, what would that look like? So I literally wrote myself, like, it wasn't a goal map. It was like not a values map. It was like my interests. Like I had to like step out of my own brain and my own being and start to like assess myself and be like, what are the things that you like the most? If you had to strip that, and I actually have this thing, I think it was called LSEP. Oh my God. I need to share this with you. How did I learn about photography? I took one class and the rest of it was self-taught about photography. But the reason I'll go into the photography thing in a sec, but when I was when it hit me, like it had been a year after I built my social media agency, and I was like, it was horrible because I felt so horrible because I just entered this partnership, like a business partnership, and I knew I wanted to get out of it. And I was like, oh my God, who am I? What am I going to do? And then I did this exercise for myself, and I wrote out the little, the acronym to help me identify. It said LSEP. L stood for long term, S stood for short term, E stood for exciting, and P stood for profitable. And I think when you're building something for yourself, the profit part is something that you really need to consider. Otherwise, it's not going to sustain your activities. And I wrote down everything. I wrote down the things that I love, the things that I built already, like templates, like strategies, like all the things that I spent 12 months doing. I wrote it all out, and it was like this big shit. I think I spent 4 hours doing this, and I had to strip everything away. And I labeled everything. Is this long-term goal, short-term goal? Is it profitable? Is it exciting? And if it only qualified for 2 of those things, and if it only qualified for short-term and profitable, I took it away. I like stripped it off. And that was like cutthroat. It was cutthroat because, a lot of the time when you're like building something, you need to find I thought that I needed to find short-term solutions to being sustainable. But what I actually discovered I needed to do, and I know this now, but not then, is focusing on the long-term goal and continuing to build that. And so I stripped a lot of things away, and I kept 2 things. Anything that said long-term, exciting, and profitable, I kept those. And that was the best exercise that I ever did for myself, because it cut out all the fat. You know what I mean? Like it cut out all the stuff that I didn't need, and all of the activities that I was doing that was not really conducive to something that was going to take me forward. And now TED, funnily enough, this is when photography started to shine, because I was like, all right, this is something that I love. What can I do with it? And then that's when I put it into content creation. Now, at the beginning, my biggest mind block about getting into photography and focusing more on that was that because I didn't study anything. Like I used to look at my competitors like, oh, they've got these accolades. Oh, they went to this school, they went to that school. But then I would browse through work, and I think actually photography is not really like a degree thing. Like no one ever asks anyone if they have a degree in photography. I've hired photographers for different jobs, and even videographers. I've hired videographers for different jobs. I've hired people to do graphics for different jobs. Never have I ever asked anyone for a degree in what it is that they're doing. My first question to them is like, do you have an Instagram account? And like, can I see your work? And then I would ask them like, what's your turnaround time? And then I'd give them the brief, and then we try to work on it. So Diana's saying, well, you were thinking, which is something schools don't teach kids anymore. You obviously got to understand yourself a lot better out of this. Thanks. Thank you. I know. It was like, it's quite tricky self-navigating because now I can see how a lot of people can build something that makes a lot of money, but then they still stay unfulfilled. And I think like if you don't invest the time in getting to know yourself and your values, that's likely where you can end. It's very easy to end up there because money is a great tempter. But when you start to see money as a true, it's like energy, it's like a true byproduct of something that you do well. Every single human being in this world has the opportunity to build something that means something to them. And if doing something that means something to you and impacting people in a positive way is something that really lines up, things will just happen sort of naturally. I mean, you do have to do the legwork, but it happens naturally. So and TED, I just want to say one more thing about the classes. There was one time that I got someone to teach me photography for like half a day. I paid the half day rate, and I was looking at photos, and I said, I don't understand how to achieve this one photo. And the trainer just said to me, oh, that's lighting. And then we went out and did some lighting, and I just couldn't click like why what came up on the camera was still different from the photo that I showed. And so this kind of led into some of the photography the things that I teach in photography now is like how to deconstruct some of, sometimes as creatives, you have this vision in your mind and you want to do it. Then you take out your phone, you take out your camera and you do the photo and you're like, why does it look the same as in my brain? And so because of that learning experience, where actually the conclusion of that training session was that we never found out what was the difference of that photo and the photo that I wanted to achieve. And because of that one experience, I added that into my training programs to teach people how to deconstruct what it is that they want to achieve, and then put together the elements of that. Because sometimes it's easy to say to people, this is what I want, but then if you don't know what elements make up that result, then it's hard to say, oh, it's the lighting that I want. Oh, it's actually the editing. Oh, it's the colors I want to fix. It's the composition. So all of these experiences at the beginning, which were kind of like a dip, actually all had a real purpose, like moving forward. So yeah, Diana, basically I started from that social media and then I went back into creative. Okay, the comments are coming through. I'm not sure if you spoke about this in an interview. I know your family is from Philippines. Yeah. Yes, I'm Filipino, but do you think you were raised, the way you were raised had an effect on your decisions? I think the way that I was raised had an impact on the way that I want to say behave, or not so much, I don't think behave, decision making and my conviction. So, like I'll speak from my family, and I don't know if this speaks for an entire culture, but from my family, it's like quite a humble, it's like humble, and I don't know. For me, I just never thought, it's something that I've had to work through, which is having conviction in knowing that I can help people to begin with. Because, selling a service, you have to know that you have to know, first of all, that you're worth it. And then you also have to have conviction in yourself that what you're selling is also worth it. So that's something that I really had to work through. This is why I've worked with coaches over and over and over again. It's not just to work out strategy, because strategy is it's like someone giving you a recipe, like you have step 1, step 2, step 3. But like, if you don't have the willingness to take that recipe and then turn it into a cake, and you don't have that willingness because something inside of you says, no, you can't cook, you're a crap cook, like you don't even know how to turn on the oven, like that recipe is like no good, right? So working on the internal state. So that's what I chose to do overall. So I think maybe I've strayed from your question. Do you think the way you were raised had an effect on your decision? I think the way that I was raised and the cultures that I was raised in, both Filipino and Australian, 100% they'd have an impact. I think people are a natural byproduct of all of the influences that we have around us, especially family. And, there's no one in my family doing what I do at the moment. And I think that sometimes my mum still finds it hard to understand what I do. She's still trying to find me a real job. So I'm like, Mum, please. Please. But that's just, maybe that's like a generational thing. So when I kind of like stepped away from what other people believe is possible and what works, what doesn't work, and I started to create my own framework for myself, that's when I realized the world is it's honestly so limitless. So Koi, you're saying, I recall a little bit of your journey watching you on YouTube. After you left Emirates, you moved back to Australia, did food photography, traveled to Thailand, went to the Philippines. Yes. So I was doing all of this at the same time. I was crazy. For me, trying to visualize the path you took to get where you are now, the information you share is a lot of information. I'm already overwhelmed. I don't have Instagram. You have to admit your attitude and mindset is and Koi, yeah, I actually, as I was talking, I was thinking, this must be so much information. But here's one tip. Your first thing, after today's live, and in anything that you build, no matter what it is that you build, you don't have to look at the big picture of what it is that you're building. You don't have to look at the whole big picture and all of the million steps that it feels like it's a million steps, but it's really not. It's really like one step today, another step tomorrow. You might even take a break on the third day, I'm over it already. It's okay. Like the timeline that we set for ourselves in terms of the goals that we create for ourselves, the timelines are based on ourselves. Like all of this is just about ourselves. And at the beginning, I was like, after Emirates, I need to establish myself after 1 year, after 2 years. And that in itself was already pressure. And when I started to realize like that pressure was actually upsetting me, and it was like causing a lot of pressure in my life, in my relationship, in my work, in the way that I saw my value, I had to decide to strip that off. And so I now systemize the way that I work in a way that's pleasurable to me. I don't know, they say work is like painful, but you create whatever you create, however you want to create it. So if you want to do this, for example, Koi, like today, when we finish, I would like to encourage you to just start an Instagram account. No more. You don't have to do any more than that. That is already one step. If you want to start 3 accounts, that's totally fine. Start 3 accounts, no worries. But it's one step at a time. It's tricky to talk about making content, especially in, I know I'm talking make content for brands, do this, that, the other, but really the first step is just start the accounts, and then just so you to be aware. I'm not saying like spend all of your time on social media and look at everything and spend hours and hours on there. Just start, and then this will start to make sense a little bit. And so, well, you obviously haven't met enough FA. Go meet more. The world's big, and there are many bright people out there that are also present. Yeah, that yeah. I mean, flight attendants, we have one main thing in common, and we're a variety of different personalities. You know, one thing that we have in common is that we love travel. That's why we end up there. And I remember when I used to fly, I remember on one crew, remember there was someone who used to do an anesthesiologist, someone who, you know, does anesthetic, you know, a doctor basically. There was another guy from Egypt, and he was a oh my gosh, I can't say the word. He basically works, what is the word? You know, Ross from Friends, that's what he used to do. Paleontologist? No, can't. What's that word? Yeah, so there was lots of people become flight attendants for travel, or they want the time to be able to travel with like no dramas, like no distractions, and you see the world fast, and you see a lot of the world. And that was one of the best things about being with Emirates, I guess. You get to see so much of the world so fast. And you know what's so crazy? Koi, listen, what was so crazy was back in the day, so like social media wasn't even a thing. We would travel, and for my own pleasure, I used to dress so cute for any destination that we wanted, so that whenever I got a photo taken in front of the landmark, that it was a photo, like the outfit matched that. And now there's a whole variety of travel bloggers, and that's actually what they do, and that's part of their job. And back then, there was no social media platform to put this on, to build a brand, nothing. And so that's why I'm like saying, oh, you could start now, because it's out there. The US airline underpay their FA severely. Yeah, that was meant for you might have thought that was yeah. But yeah, I mean, irrespective, I just think that if you're in the travel industry, and even if you're not in the travel industry, if you have the advantage of time, the first place that I would start is, okay, I gave that like practical step, which is like start an Instagram account, and start actually looking at how brands and businesses use Instagram versus how normal, like consumers. There's difference. There's consumers, there's creators. Creators, you know, they're out here, they're providing the products, they're providing the services. Sorry, did I say businesses and brands? Okay, they're creating the products, they're the services, they're monetizing what it is that they offer to the world. And then there's consumers. Consumers will use social media very differently from brands and businesses. Brands and businesses will put things out here on purpose, intentionally. That's part of their marketing. Consumers here will use it differently. They're here to consume and to be entertained, to be informed, or ready to shop. So when you sign up to the social media platforms, just have a look at how businesses are using it, because that's going to open your mind to this world that we're talking about, which is content creation for marketing. Question, recommendation on video. I still use iMovie. I'm a grub. No, not really. No, iMovie, I use iMovie. It's so simple. It's so simple. And now with Canva, have you heard of Canva? It's that graphic design platform. There's free and paid version. I combine Canva with iMovie. And then I really tried to learn the fancier editing equipment like Adobe Premiere Pro, but I realized like I'm not really interested in becoming a videographer or having those higher skills. So I stick with iMovie. And it'll do most things. And if you're editing from your mobile, I recommend InShot. It's the best. I'm FA here in the USA for one of 3 major airlines. Yes. So I hope that was helpful. And Diana, if you're in the space of like understanding content creation in order to monetize one day, whether you turn it into your own brand or a service that you provide to others, you might be interested in looking at things like YouTube strategy, like YouTube for businesses, or even you might actually be interested in social media content creation. That's hey, Andre. Etihad crew here, still alive. Yes, you've helped me become cabin crew. Yeah, and now your latest videos are inspiring me to start a YouTube channel. Just want to say thank you. That's amazing. Do you know Bobby? No, me, Luca? No, I don't know who Bobby Shmurda is. Does anyone know who Bobby Shmurda is? Let Luca know. But yeah, Andre, if you're flying right now, so you're with Etihad. Oh my God. The advantage that you have, the things that people will do in order to see how much of the world that you get to see. YouTube is great because you can, please, if you're going to start a YouTube channel, watch the video that I made called How to Make a Vlog That Gets Views. That video has actual YouTube strategy in it. It's your first YouTube strategy that you will need to know if you want to create a channel that's travel related that might lead to a job in travel marketing. Oh my God. So that's one of the latest videos that I've made. I think I've got to change the thumbnail. But anyway, it's got the SEO strategy. So that way, when you start making videos, the way that you title your videos, YouTube can actually pick up on. And if you're just starting the YouTube channel, just remember it's all about getting, I think it's about, if you can invite people to watch that content over the first few, like in the first 3 minutes, YouTube will continue to like push it out. So if you've got, just watch the video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like all of this will make sense to you. Do I think that YouTube is still yes, YouTube is still a popular platform for content. It's a very unique platform in that it allows for long form video. So I think YouTube is really something that competes with other long form platforms like Netflix. You know, if someone's not watching Netflix, they're watching YouTube. That's quite a powerful duo that compete with each other. And the other thing, Andre, is like if you're going to start a YouTube channel, what's going to happen is as your YouTube channel grows, your Instagram will also grow. Yeah, it's hard to do it the other way around. It's hard to use your Instagram to grow your YouTube because people on Instagram want short form content to begin with and are less willing to invest a lot of time in long form, whereas people on YouTube, they're already committed, you know, like they've chosen to commit their time to long form content. And so it's a lot easier to grow your Instagram when you've grown YouTube. Plus, always remember, your videos on YouTube are not time sensitive. They are relevance sensitive. So you can make a video today, and if that content is still relevant, after a year, you can still continue to get views. And because of that one video, your Instagram may still keep growing. So now that I've been making content, I've actually made content for all the different platforms. So I know the feeling of what it's like. And I had to make a decision, like, where do I focus my attention? YouTube is definitely a focus place. And I get a lot of brand clients. They find me on Instagram. But that's because my content on YouTube is very different from my content on Instagram. My content on YouTube has skewed towards education these days, whereas my content on Instagram is very lifestyle driven. And that was a decision I made early about last year. A lot of people this is completely up to you how you want to do it. A lot of people will say, have this one brand that it's the same thing across all platforms. And that's a very strong way to grow. that's a very strong way to grow, because you'll have different audiences on different platforms, right? So some people find you on YouTube, but they don't want to watch videos all the time. So if you have a podcast, okay, great. They'll go to the, you always you'll attract different audiences interested in the same thing on different platforms. Another question on copyrights on YouTube. I used to use YouTube's free music. Yes. So when I first started, and for a long time, I was using the free music. But now, because I work alongside brands and some of the content that I need to deliver is going to be for their use, I now pay for, what's it called? Artlist, artlist.io. And I pay an annual subscription for that. And that's just so that when I submit content to brands, then I don't feel afraid that what I've submitted to them is going to get banned in any way. So and that money, I just, like, when you talk to your accountant and stuff, that's one of the things that I include as part of my office. But this is the thing. This is what it's like when you start transferring from doing it as a hobby and building your portfolio to actually making it into a business. A lot of things that become a little bit more official. At the beginning, it's like, oh, I'm just going to experiment with this. And then you go, oh, I actually have potential in this. Oh, let me become like a sole trader. Let me become a freelancer. And when you become a freelancer, you're going to be like, oh, okay, let me go forward. Is it licensed per video or no? So once there's all different levels of, use, but definitely check it out. I think I might even have a link which might allow you to a free trial or something. I'll try to find it. And but yeah, anyway, so that's what it's like when you turn something from a hobby into something official. And for you, like Andre, if you decide to start a YouTube channel and you start to build a video portfolio of travel content, and you think you've actually made enough, you know what? I made my first pitch to an accommodation, but this was for a collaboration. This was unpaid collaboration. It was one of my milestones that I wanted to achieve. I was like, can I collaborate with a hotel brand? And I think I had just reached 1,000 subscribers when I reached out to a accommodation in Bali, and they said yes. And so, you go through your first milestones, and then after you do that, then you go for paid, because people will start to see what you're capable of doing. So let me see if I can find that link for you, Diana. So Diana, do you have a YouTube channel? Are you starting one? Let me see here. Artlist. Sorry, I'm just looking. Here it is. Oh, I think you get 2 months free. Is that right? Just check this out. I'll just post the code here. Oh yeah, cool. What are you going to make? What's the topic? Is it? There it is. I've just posted the link to Artlist. Oh yes, I also, if you want to get started on making content, I made an ebook, and this is something that I used to share. Well, a lot of the content that I put in this ebook was stuff that I included in training different companies in terms of making Instagram stories and all these different platforms, right? And it consolidated that in about, I think, 94 pages. It also includes like styling photos and that kind of thing. So I made this ebook as kind of like an entry point to anyone who's interested in starting to go in that direction. I'm going to put that link here as well. Yeah, it's so exciting to know that there's still travel going on. And if you are in that position, you are traveling. Like I just did a little, what is this? I just did a local holiday here in Brisbane, and I captured a bunch of content. And that's truly just something that I really, really enjoy. But just what I have now, I was like, okay, moving forward, this is excellent to pitch to local Australian travel and that kind of thing, if that's still the direction that I want to go in. Andre, if you watch that video on how to make a vlog, it will also, I've also included a way in which you can capture something called B-roll. And so when you travel, you can still be in the moment of your travel. You can still eat your food. You can still be in the moment, but you still get the right footage that you need in order to make those videos. So video is such a great thing to learn how to do these days because so many people are willing to pay for that. Like, you can literally create a role for yourself where all you do is create 30-second clips for brands. Like, it's crazy. Okay, so thank you so much for these words. God knows my insecurities are making me doubt myself. I love the idea that sometimes a YouTube can blow up after years. Yes, I actually, I calculate. So right now, I'll tell you something. This is a fact. So last year I wanted to pivot my content a little bit to start showing more about content creation. And you can go to something called tubebuddy.com. Right? There's a free version and a paid version, but the free version is good enough. It'll help you understand like how YouTube works. So what you do is you type in the title that you want to make your video, and then you'll be able to see how many people are typing those words in per month versus how much competition do I have. Now, at the time, this story I'm going to tell you about my photography thing. So last year I wanted to start teaching people how to create content for this exact reason. And so the search terms content creation wasn't really a big thing back then, and all the content stuff that was coming out was like writing. And so I specifically used the words photography. Anyway, I created my first video in March in photography. It got the lowest views. It was called how to use a reflector or something like that. It had something to do with a photography tool. It had 200 views for 2 months. And I was like, this sucks. But then the thing that I was like, no, it does not suck. It is a machine. You're going to teach the machine to like your content. And so what happened after that is I calculated. I said, okay, I'm going to keep producing photography content. And my calculations are within the next 3 to 4 months, this video that I made in March is going to start gaining traction. And guess what? It did. It did. And it's probably one of my ranking videos at the moment. So I don't know how many views it has now, but it's definitely in the 5 figures. So, and it just keeps going up. And what happened? So this is how it worked. I did that one video, and then I did another video and another video, and I used the same words in the titles or in the tags or in the description. And it helped those, that whole series, that photography series, increases. So it's really a combination of your title, your thumbnail, your description, and your tags. Okay, so there's a huge market for English-speaking YouTubers in Asia, as long as they also speak certain Asia. Oh yeah, that's so true. I speak what? But fluent in Chinese and English. What? Obviously, there's people YouTube videos are boring as hell. So I think that clicks to the audience. Yeah, totally. Personality for sure. But the fact that you speak so many different languages, there's so any language there is there's so many people willing to watch. And so if you're okay, should I make a channel in this language or that language? Whatever you choose, there's so many people who speak that language. Those pranksters abuse the hang out of thumbnails. And oh yeah. Here's the thing, you've got to as well sort of work out what thumbnails work best for you. I think I'm still the direction in which I'm going now, I'm still trying to work out what thumbnails work for me, because it's changed so much. And if you're going to look at any channels that has made the most mistakes and currently recovering and has methods to recover, because even in my lowest, where I was like, oh, why is my YouTube channel like this? What's the point of it all? I was like, you have to know that everything can be figured out. And if you anchor in on that, you'll be able to spend more time focusing on not recuperating, but lifting everything again, rather than being over here being and there's a very different energy between being super needy and then being no, whatever I do now, I can detach from the results. It's going to go forward. And that's how I had to mentally train myself about that, because low views, all the effort, and even being anchored by mistakes it's such a draining place to be. And so I think ultimately, whenever you feel as though your insecurities are holding you back, or whenever you feel as though you're is this going to do anything for me? Something that I'll never forget, when I learned this, it became the complete unlock to changing perspective, how our brain can only focus on one thing at any given time. And whatever you feed your brain in that one time and keep feeding it, that's what it's going to believe. It can only, it's have you ever somewhere, right? And there's two people trying to talk to you at the same time. And one person is wanting you to focus on them and the other person's like this. Or even DJs, you know, you're trying to match a beat and you're like listening to one track over here and one track over here. It takes training. It takes training to decide which thought you're going to listen to, because you can only be in that thought at any one given time. Those two thoughts cannot coexist in peace and with clarity at any given time. And so when the time came that I decided, okay, I'm going to flip that switch off about self-doubt, about the fact that I ruined my channel, I'm just going to focus on rebuilding it and giving like the most that I can, the most value that I can, that's in the most natural way to me. And this is what I would advise you as well. Just give the best that you can. And I mean, there's part of you that will show up for others, but show up for yourself. Like when you decide to go down this path, it's going to be you versus you, like, and you being able to serve people in such a way, like the more you serve people, the more you get back. It's just almost like, it's actually a law of the universe, the law of reciprocity. Still can't say that word right. And so the more you lean into like who you are, the more you lean into that, the more that everything actually falls into place. It's wild. So yes. Oh my God, Dorota, that's crazy. Thank you. And I'm so glad, like this is one of my, I hate to play favorites. No, I won't play it. But this is one of the places that really made me feel like when I first left Emirates and was like, I don't really have my people yet, here in Brisbane. And when I started YouTube, I was like, oh my God, this is like a real actual world of people that you can connect with. It's just, and it's crazy, Diana, when you start your channel, like you'll start to attract people who are like you as well. It's going to blow your mind. So, yes, anyway, I won't take up much more of your time, but let me know, is there anything in particular for next week that you guys want to talk about? Do you want to talk, shall we talk more about your content strategy? Are we going to go there? Are we ready to start your channels? Are we ready to start something? Hang on. There's something about the comments and I feel like some of them are blocked. Oh, yeah. YouTube holds some comments for review. Asian parents would go nuts if you tell them you want to give up a salary job. Oh, Diana, I just saw your comment about Asian parents go nuts. Yes, they will go nuts if you tell them you want to give up a job. I don't know if my mum slowly started to accept it because she sees I think she can see my life and like it's okay. And she's no longer like that worried. And then there's another comment here. What do you think about past content? I have a lot and thinking about releasing it on my channel as a movie or documentary of my travels and life as a use of the video to be leveraged to come on my page. Yes, definitely use your past content. Okay, so talk to me about what is your end goal with that content. I have lots of thinking about releasing it on my channel as a movie or documentary of my past travels and life. Okay. So if your goal, so I'm talking to Pullman's Penthouse. Let me show you a comment. I think it's currently held for review. Okay. It depends on your goal. So definitely using past content is 1000% great, a great idea. Now, in terms of how you're going to use it is going to be dependent on your end goal. If your end goal is to grow your channel, perhaps what would work well is to do like a mini, like a docu-series rather than one long video. Let's say you wanted to use that content, right? Do you have an idea of how long you want your documentary to go? Let's have a look. I wonder if I can go to your channel. I'd like to know more about SEO strategy. Oh yeah, I can tell you about my SEO stuff. That's super. You feel here on, yeah, Koi, I feel at home here on YouTube. It's like no matter what happens in my life, no matter where I go, I always come back here. Even if I feel like I ruined my channel back in the day, I was like, no, what do you mean ruined? Like it's still here. So I'll come back to it. Okay, so next week, Diana, we can talk about SEO strategy. What I would like, I'm like giving you homework. But so that it becomes applicable to you, like you mentioned that it's something in the works, right? So have you decided your main topic? Because I wonder if we could do this live. I'm going to show you some tools. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to figure out how I can do a shared screen where we can research some topics for you. We'll research it together. So what I need you to do between now and then is if you haven't decided on your topic or your niche yet, just write a list of like, your top 5. And then we'll do some research together. This is something that I used to do with clients when I was doing, during my social media days, I was like training as well. So, and this is the fun part. Like, that person that I was telling you about with the celery juice? So she did like 5 videos, but then realized that she wanted to use Instagram more than YouTube. But literally that celery juice video that she made became like her highest ranking one. It got like 3,000 views. So normally when you start, it's very normal to have videos that have like 50 views, 100 views, 150 views. It's very, very normal. Anyway, so she had like 3 or 4 videos, and the other one actually ended up with like 3,000 views, which just meant that we really nailed that in terms of the YouTube strategy, SEO and stuff. So Poorman's Penthouse. So yes, use your old use your old content, and then if your goal with that content is to grow your channel, then it might be handy to do small, like a mini docu-series where you break everything up, because what you're going to need is you're going to need people to want to binge watch your videos. You're going to want people to come back for the next part. So the way that I would set that up is like, like a soap opera. You ever watch a soap opera and it's like, all of the meat, it's like first it's the recap, then it's the meat, and then at the end they leave you with this one thing and you're like, I need to know what is going to happen with this. Then you would set it up like that. So you would really focus on mastering your ending, because that's going to enter into the next part of, that's going to make people want to watch the next part. An example of this is when I made a series. This was accidental, but it worked. I made a series called 9 Ways to Make a Flight Attendant Hate You. Cliffhanger. Koi, thank you. If you were not here, half the time I wouldn't know what words I'm trying to say, which is so now, okay, so one of the first series, which it happened by accident, and this is how I discovered that this works. So I made this video, like 9 ways to make a flight attendant hate you. And then I edited the whole thing and I was like, oh my God, this is 30 minutes. No one's going to sit here for 30 minutes. And because my channel was still new, at the beginning when the channel's still new, you want to retain viewers over the span of your video. So that's why a lot of YouTubers make small videos at the beginning, because you're kind of like nicely introducing yourself without asking for too much time. And anyway, so I thought, what am I going to do with this video? I've spent all this time making it. It's quite funny, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to split it up into 5 parts. And I posted them one day apart at a time, which made the people want to keep coming back to watch the whole thing. And so, yeah, you could do it that way. But then at the same time, back to Poorman's Penthouse, if you want to use this particular video as something that you could show to people like as a pitch, then your views don't really matter. So it really depends if you're making this video for your channel or if you're doing it. A lot of people use YouTube to just put their videos on with no particular interest in growing the channel. So if you feel as though making one cohesive movie is going to, it's going to do the part in terms of getting that thing that you want at the end, if you want to work with a company or something like that, then I would do it in the way that I would do it in the way that you see fit, basically. So yeah, I'm not sure if you can do a split screen while you, yeah, I know, man. Like, there's another format of doing this, and that's me having my vlogging camera here. And then, I don't know, like, I'm going to try to research it or either that, or we could do the activity together. So, and that would mean we would go, I was like, or otherwise we would do Zoom. But then it wouldn't be on YouTube. So let me find out about it. And if not, what we can do, the worst case scenario is that we will do it together. So I'll have my screen up, you'll have your screen up, and whoever wants to join in on the activity, they can join in and start to see the stats. What's Jumpstart Academy? Like Ace Family, there's excellent as clickbaiting graphic content. Kristine, the Jumpstart, you mean the Jumpstart bundle? Thank you. Great advice. I appreciate you. Thank you. I'm glad that's helpful. Your flight attendant stories are iconic. Every crew in the UAE, really. Oh my God. I didn't even, oh, that's very cool. But now, have you seen that girl on TikTok? There's, I think Jeannie is her name. She does funny flight attending stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. So, yes. So if you're talking about the Jumpstart Academy, Diana, that's exactly what this is for. Like, so it's basic content of all sorts, but also the mindset thing. The mindset thing, because I just know that tools are tools, but when we're there about to reach the things that we want, like things pop up and we start procrastinating, we start not doing the things. And so that Jumpstart bundle, there's a little challenge in there where you will make content. You will make content. And then all of the strategies included as well. So Simple Pickup and Just Kidding Films just got together and made this content for anyone that wants to join. Oh, is that right? Well, that sounds amazing. Got together and made this content for anyone that wants to start. Yes. Well, that's exactly. There's like all of the tools are out there. All of the tools are out there. It's just really about like taking one lesson and then applying it. Taking a lesson and then applying it. YouTube is SEO. So once you nail that, you pretty much get the whole. It's a formula. That's a beautiful thing. Once you understand the formula, it's like you unlock this door and you're in. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the thing about, I've made courses in the past. The beautiful thing about when you make a course is that it's all streamlined. And the reason I purchase courses is because they're all streamlined. And also when I've got a bit of skin in the game, you know, once you've invested financially, it's almost like you feel a little bit more, I don't know, you are physically more invested in it, and so it might garner results. So yeah, if there's a program out there and if you watch it, like honestly, check it out. All of this stuff is going to be great, but at the end of the day, your focus is the results that you're going to get. So and this is how I see it, right? Like if there's an online program that's available to be bought and I want a result, and if I enter that result and I've paid money for it, then it's all on me, really. So why am I saying this is because I think I love free information. I consume free information all day, every day, especially when I'm editing photos and stuff. I listen to like Clubhouse. I listen to podcasts and YouTube. But even though there is a lot of free content out there, there's a little bit of magic when it comes to like when you invest in yourself. Because it's not, when you buy something, you're not just buying a product, like you're not just buying the course, you're actually saying, like you're putting out the energy out there, like I'm ready to invest in my success, I'm ready to invest in my life and what I create. So, you know, if there's any part of you that was curious when you saw those courses, look, I'm not going to be like, oh, you should buy it. But I realized that one of the biggest changes that happened in my life was the first time I ever signed up for a personal development course. And it was just me, and I was watching the presentation, and I was like, I bet you at the end of this, they're going to sell. And at the end, of course, there was a sales, and I love sales processes, but I didn't love that one. But I knew that it was something that I needed. And I sat there with a piece of paper. They give you a paper and a pen. And I was like, I was just like this. And then I bought it and I signed up. And then what happened was I had to go to the back of oh my God, this story is crazy because this was the moment that changed everything. You know, when we talked about mindset before, this was the moment. This was the moment that I like grabbed hold of my life and was like done. Like I was just done with like going with like this and like being shaken around and whatever. I was like, I'm going to take control. And I was so scared. So I took the paper and then I kind of filled it out. And then I went to the back of the room where you're supposed to sign up. And I was signing it, and I was with this girl that I didn't really know. And I just said to her, like, I don't know why I'm signing up. And then I started crying. And I was like, I'm just so scared that I'm signing up for I was saying this while I was crying. I was like, I'm scared that I'm signing up for here. I'm going to find out that I'm broken. And all the people were looking at me. No one said anything. No one was judging. But now, from what I know now of what was happening at the time, that was my very first breakthrough because I didn't call anyone. you know, a lot of the time when we want to buy something, you want to call your friend, get their opinion, like, oh, do you think I should wear this to the party? Oh, what do you think of this dress? It's always like, what do you think? What do you think? And it's almost like we're always like needing reassurance from other people about the things that we do. This was the first moment. I'm Libran. And you know, they say about Librans are indecisive. They can't make their own decisions. Librans can't be leaders. This was the moment that I was like, I didn't ask anyone. First of all, I don't think anyone would agree with how much money I spent on that personal development course, let alone like for my first one, you know. And then when I signed up, that was my first breakthrough. And then even after I signed up, I resisted everything. Like I didn't want to be there. I just thought that, why am I there? It's so ridiculous. Like I'm above this. Anyway, and that was, I think, the moment that I realized, like, money comes and goes. It always flows. But the investment in yourself is forever. Oh my God, I need to write that down. That's such a great saying. Money comes and goes, and it really does flow. But when you unlock, like, let's say if I only took one thing away from that, but I definitely took a lot more from that. But if I took one thing away from that, that changed behaviors and started, that really taught me how to grow a business. It was the investment part. So yeah. Don't worry, I'm not advertising for them. I have little wins with that program. I'd love to interact through comments again next week. If you're doing it, definitely happy to share my ideas. Yes. Okay, let's do that. So Diana, from today, and whoever else who wants to take part of this exercise, if you're thinking about doing a YouTube channel, let's do this exercise together. And actually, we can all do it for like, okay, I will do like the keyword researching, but you know, you will know what topics you want to research, and we will research them together. So I'll give you some instructions on what you're going to type in, and then we're going to read. So next week is, it's going to be the same date and time. What's going to be the date? What time is it where you guys are? So I can see if this fits you. Because I just did this at 2 p.m. Brisbane time, and that's a very random time for me, but I thought maybe it works for most people. So that is March the 5th. Okay, March the 5th. And what do you guys think of this time? Do you think this time I fly on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Oh, lovely. So that means you'll be here next week, Koi? It's now 9:30 p.m. Okay, California time. And Diana, whereabouts are you? And anyone else who wants to join in on the exercise, just write out your topics that you are keen on making videos for, and then we're going to do some keyword researching together. Oh, so nice. Guys, I will admit, when you travel, international travel is something so, such a novelty these days. Only such a small percentage of the entire planet has access to what you guys have access to. So please show us your travel content. Please share that with us on your Instagram. You're actually going to be doing people a lot of favors when you make these videos and content, even on Instagram stories. You know, like the other day I was watching someone who is in India, and I was like, oh my God, that's so nice. Like she was traveling around Kerala. And I was like, it's been so long since I've seen someone on a holiday. And I was like, whoa. So 6:30 a.m. in Madrid. Is that what time it's going to be when we start? What do you guys think about, should we start earlier, 1 p.m.? Oh my God, I'm sorry. So Andre, it's 6:30 a.m. So that means that we started this at 5:30 a.m. Madrid. Okay, I'll see you next week, Dana. And yeah, with your topics. I'll see you then. And Koi, so we'll stick to this time. Why don't we just do that? This is what's worked for the last couple of weeks anyway. So I'm going to hop on Brisbane 2 p.m. Friday, whatever that time was. And we're going to get to work next week. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I just assumed that because you're in Korea but based in the US. All right. Okie dokes, my friends. I'll see you guys next week at 2 p.m. Brisbane time, and whatever time that is in your city. I'll do a post on YouTube. I don't know how to schedule things yet, so I'll just do a little post. Thank you, everybody. It was lovely today, and I won't share this on the YouTube feed because it's so everywhere, all over the place. But we'll just keep doing these lives though. All right. Have a great day, everybody, or have a good night. And I'll see you next week on live. We're going to do some YouTube. Ciao, ciao.